To begin with, I would like to highlight the aim for this Youth Mentorship Program, and our aim is based on this premise. The change we desire to make with this program is to empower the youth, our leaders for tomorrow, by trusting them today. And our why, or our cause, our mission, our purpose is brought by this illustration, because we believe every youth, just like every seed, has immense potential within them. But when you put a seed on a windowsill, it will remain a seed forever. But with soil, water, and air, that seed can become a forest. And our goal is to provide youth with the soil, water, and air they need to reach their potential. In this segment, I would like to provide some perspective for the youth, their leaders, their parents. Because here I would like us to look at the challenge that lays ahead for the youth. Here's an article that represents many, which says in the first paragraph that the Kenya Kwanza administration faces an uphill to deliver bold promises on jobs, cost of livings, economic reforms, and infrastructure, and all that. The second paragraph highlights that there are millions of young people who graduate from colleges, universities each and every year. And the third one is companies are beginning to shred jobs due to technology, hence reducing the amount of positions or places that the youth can take in terms of work. Now, this is a three-part problem. We have the government, which every single campaign promised jobs, and I believe that most politicians actually do want to provide the youth with jobs. But the challenge which they face is, first, there are millions of people who are graduating every single year to add to the number who are already unemployed. And second, there are companies which are moving to technology, because if we are to be honest, technology is much more efficient, both cheaper and faster than human beings. And so this is the challenge which the youths need to look at and quickly accept and find ways around it. Because the best possible scenario for this is a youth goes to college, gets out, and after graduations they get the job, whichever job that comes their way. Now, this provides two problems. First of all, you have someone who is not qualified or trained in that job, and second of all, the lack of competency will lead to demotivation. So you'll find someone being more stressed because they have to go to a place which they feel incompetent. And then second, you have quality of work which drops, and so the business can actually lose a lot of sales because of this. Now, what does the youth have to do? They just have to endure, because what do? They have to make a living. They have to survive. And so they'll continue in this job for so many years, feeling like they are trapped, feeling like they're enslaved, feeling like they have to submit themselves to whatever circumstance they find themselves in. Now, this is the best possible scenario for most graduates. I'm not saying all of them. There are those who, yes, they finish college and university and get exactly what they trained for. But this is for most graduates. Now, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is the youth, they go to college or university, graduate, and they come out and join the millions of graduates who are on the streets protesting they need employment, protesting that they need opportunities. Now, for us, with this program, we believe that there exists an opportunity. Because with this problem of unemployment, we believe that every problem to be solved presents an opportunity to be grabbed. And the same goes with this work and employment opportunity. And this is a perspective which we want the youth to begin having. We need the youth, their leaders, their parents to start asking these questions of how this problem they can solve for themselves. And in this video, we'll try providing that perspective throughout. In this segment, I intend to provide facts, data, and number to prove on what we've just spoken about. The first one is the number of graduates, and this is just a list of the top universities in Kenya, which we can already see every year we have thousands of graduates coming from these schools. Not to add to the many more thousands that come from other colleges and institutions around the country. Now, for those youth who intend to join a college or a university, first of all, it will take a huge investment, both in terms of money and in terms of time. So the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is because the youth who intend to join colleges and universities need to join a program or a cause that will be 100% worth it. In the end, you do not want to join the millions of people who have degrees but do not have the opportunity. The second one is the economic cycle, because here is where we invite the youth to pay attention to what is happening. In 2002, we saw a rise in inflation. When prices increase, there will be less spending, because things are expensive. And when people spend less, businesses make lower profits. When businesses make lower profits, they tend to lay people off, which leads to unemployment. The best possible scenario here is that the people get pay cuts or reduced salaries. And this is something which I'll talk about later on. But for the youth who intend to join an institution or get to increase the education, this is something which you need to also pay attention. That what is happening in the economy right now is the more spaces that used to exist for employment are being reduced. First of all, just because of the economy. Second of all, when you look at the Kenya unemployment rate, which has always been high, reduced a little bit in 2020, but it's going to go higher and higher even in 2022. The key thing which I wanted to look at is the minimum wage, which is 15,000 Kenya shillings. This is where most companies will go at these tough times. Now, for the youth who want to be independent, to find employment which will sustain them, the question you ask yourself is, will that employment even be worth it? If you have to do what you have to do, you have to get the opportunity that just comes. Will it really be worth it? If this is the amount which is paying you, and you have to deduct here your transport, you have to deduct there your food, you have to deduct there your rent. Now, there are questions which the youth need to ask themselves. I'm just providing the facts, data, and numbers here. And the last one is technology. Because forget computers, forget apps, forget phones. The thing which we need to look at is AI. AI is coming to replace humans directly in what they do, both in intellect, in interaction. And so for the youth who are choosing courses and careers, you need to start predicting in the next 5, 10, 15 years, will this course which I'm going to train in be available for human beings, or is AI coming and taking over this particular segment in the job market? And so these are just things which we invite the youth to really pay attention. If they're going to become our leaders of tomorrow, they need to start preparing today, and to prepare adequately by looking at these facts, data, and number. In this segment, I intend to look at the impact which unemployment will have in the long term in the society if it continues. And unless the youth start looking at this as a serious thing and start preparing themselves and not relying on government, not relying on their leaders, but then themselves taking charge to reverse these rates, there'll be serious consequences. And the first place which I feel will be impacted most are relationships. The first relationship, of course, is marriage, because we'll expect to have fewer and fewer weddings in the future, because young men will be afraid to commit to young women if they cannot be able to provide for them, and even later on to provide for their children, which is a very realistic fear to have, because few things can stress people than being unable to provide for their family. So you'll be expecting fewer young people to get married, fewer people who might be in love. Few of them will be willing to commit to something like marriage. For those who get married, the number one cause for divorce are finances. So this is something which will rise a lot if this continues. If there are fewer and fewer opportunities, divorce rates we expect them to rise. The other thing we expect to rise are single parents. Because of the lack of commitment, because of divorce, you'll have people who fell in love, hooked up, got a child, and one of the partners, it can be either the mother or the father, who leaves and does not want to commit. So this brings on things like mental issue from stress and depression. This will bring insecurity, because the youth will turn to being conmen, being thieves, and already we are seeing some parts of the country of which are rising insecurity a lot. And so this is what the youth will be forced to become unless they start paying attention and really looking at how they can reverse these unemployment rates. The second thing you're seeing the youth getting into more is gambling, trying to get out of the situation which they are in the very fast way, having that quick win. And lastly, when you couple all these things, we're expecting more youths in the future to either end up in prison or to end up dead. And this is I'm just trying to provide, I'm not trying to be all gloom and doom, but I'm just trying to provide things. I'm saying if things continue as they are, and the reason why we are starting such programs and encouraging the youth to develop a new perspective is to prevent for situations to get to this point. But they can easily get to this point according to what we are seeing today if changes are not made, especially with the youths themselves. Here is where we look at the new way, and the new way is very simple. It requires the youth to gain some perspective. The youth need to stop looking at the short term and focus on the long term. Focus on 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from today. How will you succeed? And this requires you to look forward and not backward. The things which used to work for your teachers, your leaders, your parents, in order for them to succeed, will not work for the youth of today. Now, in looking forward, here is where we include that the youth really need to ask questions and do research. Whatever career you choose to take, you need to get into that career. You need to speak to the people who are in it and ask them the questions which you have just looked at before. Ask them in terms of competition. What does it take out to stand out from the rest? What does it take to, avoid being replaced by technology? What are some of the opportunities that are in that career? And so the youth need to be proactive. You cannot rely on your teachers, parents, and leaders to just tell you, go become an accountant or become a doctor, because that is what has always worked. What has always worked will not work anymore, because even doctors have been replaced by technology. Accountants have been replaced by technology. When you're looking at the banks today, few people go to the bank today because everything has been replaced by technology. So you need to have serious questions on where the opportunity lies with the career that you're choosing to pursue. And the last part here is, after you've done your research, the youths need to develop the ability to predict. To really determine that in 5 years' time, this is what according to my research, this is what I predict will happen, and this is how you're going to position yourself in order to gain as much opportunity as possible. And so with this youth mentorship program, this is what we actually provide the youth. These are the resources we provide the youth with, and I'll speak about it in the next segment. In this segment, I'd like to highlight our solution, and here is where I want to speak about this first workshop. Because with this mentorship program, there's so many workshops that are targeted for different reasons with the youth to try and help them actually become more self-reliant financially. For this first workshop, I just want to highlight because it goes for 3 days and it is done online, and so the youth can attend whichever location they are. But the aim for this workshop is actually provide the youth with the tools they need in order to progress in their career journey or career path. So the structure for this workshop is, it will be done in 3 days. The first day will be helping the youth develop a proper work plan. Here is where we'll help them reach the resources of where they go and get the information for whichever work they want to do, looking at how much it will take for you to get in, how much training it will need, what are kind of the networks and connections someone will need, and ultimately the future of that career or that work. And so here is where we will help the youth develop a proper work plan, and this is each session or each day lasts for 2 hours. So the second day is where we come now to the education plan. Instead of just joining any college or university for the sake of hoping that at the end of it I'll get an opportunity, no, we first begin with the work plan in day 1, and then when you come to day 2, you're going to get the education specific to that opportunity you've already researched in. And so here is where we will help the youth now come up with how will they succeed in class, which colleges are accessible to them in terms of their own resources, and which courses and classes will help them best become prepared, because there are some work opportunities which may not actually need you to begin with a college degree or begin with a college diploma. There are some work opportunities which will need you to gain a certain skill that might help you start providing for yourself even as you get your education. And the last day, which is the third day, we have the youth go through the financial plan. The financial plan here is where we're looking at how will they finance this entire thing? How will they finance the education plan? How will they finance their work plan, even as they start from the bottom as they grow? And so this is what we do in the last day of that workshop. Now, that was just the first workshop for the program. But the whole essence why we started this program has been to provide a lifetime value for all the youth that will join us. Now, we're not looking for many youths, we're actually looking for a very small number. And the reason why we're looking for a small number, we're looking for the youth who rely on this quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. So what we're aiming to do with this program is provide the youth with a network of other youths of similar standards, of similar values, of similar principles, who will provide each other with the resources, the connections, to not just go fast, but to go far. And so we are looking at youth who will want to be part of this mastermind, youth who will want to be part of this association, because we believe that you're only as strong as your network. And so as much as we want to focus, we will focus on each youth individually, but have them work collectively. And so for this, I want to highlight again, it is not for everyone. We're looking for a small group that can do this to the very end. So here I'd like to provide details of how to register. And the biggest thing you're registering here is for the 3-day workshop, which internally you'll be registering for the entire mentorship program that will be working with the youth, providing them with different resources, providing them with different connections, providing them with different other workshops to help them become self-reliant. But it is actually more than that, because we're looking at developing leaders. And so we'll be asking the youth who join us to actually take initiative with a couple of activities, not only to help themselves, but to help the entire group. And so for this first workshop and for the entire program, it will cost the youth 600 shillings to join. And the way we came up with this amount is the first workshop goes for 3 days. Each workshop will go for 2 hours. So you're seeing that each hour will cost the youth 100 shillings. Now, the reason why we are putting this amount, we do not want to put a very high amount, because we are looking at bringing youths who are looking to become more financially independent. So at this moment, we do understand that the youth are not yet there. But at the same time, we are saying that we need them to show a little bit of commitment. We do not want youths who will come in and disrupt the group. We do not want youths who will come in and not use the resources that we're going to provide as needful. People will come and misuse the opportunity. And so we basically say, if a youth cannot sacrifice a plate of chips for each hour we are with them, then they're not for us. And we're okay with that, because we know it is not for the many, but for the few. And so that is the amount which we've come in for to register. But before even paying that amount, because we know that there are still other people, other jokers who can still afford the 600 bob and will want to join in, even before paying that 600, we'll have to ask the youth to send an email of the name, career goal, phone number, and why they'll want to be part of this group to this email, ymp.kenyan@gmail.com, Youth Mentorship Program.kenyan@gmail.com. But you don't write the Youth Mentorship Program in full, just ymp.kenyan@gmail.com. Send your name, career goal, phone number, and why. And after we receive this email, the youth will expect a phone call, of which we'll go through some questions of our own, and the youth can ask questions of their own. Then we can proceed to the registration fee and the registration process. And so this is how to register for the Youth Mentorship Program. Hopefully this video gets to the right person, because if it does, so much that lays ahead for us.